Good morning, good evening, and good night. Guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Foghorn 5. Welcome back to the second part of building my real AR. I made a video previously, which I'll link up above, of how we got to this point, building my lower. Today we're getting into the upper receiver. So I've got all the parts now to continue moving forward with building the upper. Today is going to be the biggest challenge and the biggest task of building this rifle, because we're going to be installing the barrel and the muzzle device and properly torquing those things to correct spec and timing the muzzle device. And lastly, before we get into this, I know for a fact YouTube is going to demonetize this video just like it did my last one, because we're building, an AR on screen. Hit the subscribe button, please leave a comment, leave a like. That would be much appreciated. Currently trying to get our channel to 4,000 subscribers. So what I want to go ahead and do is kind of give a recap on what we got going on with the lower. So far what I have built here, I got a gutted Aero Precision lower receiver. I got a Geisley lower parts kit, including their Geisley trigger. Everything we got going on back here, we got the BCM buffer tube, same thing with the castle nut and the buffer tube plate. And also we got the BCM buffer and spring. And then down here for my pistol grip, we got a Ergo. This is one of their more grippy, soft compound Ergo grips, but still the original Ergo design. I love Ergo. Lastly, we got the stuff to make this rifle California compliant. I got the mag lock system, and then a newer little part, which I forgot the company name, I'll put it up here. This reaches across from the kingpin to the mag, so it is a one-step motion, once again, like loading an AR should be. Get right into the upper and what parts I have going for it. So in part of my journey of assembling my upper, I actually have acquired two upper receivers. This right here is going to be the one I'm going to be using. This is an NBS upper receiver. This right here is a Aero Precision upper receiver. Saw this one and it was at a discounted price, and I put it on my gun. And like we talked about before, I'm doing kind of like a Block 2 FSP rifle, and having this very modernized upper, I just kind of wasn't the biggest fan of it. Probably going to use this for a project later on down the line. I'm just a big fan for a lot of the mil spec stuff. A lot of that competition and modernized looking stuff on ARs doesn't really tickle my pickle. Yeah, I just went ahead and chose this, and I'm happy with this. Next up, matching the upper receiver, we have here an NBS bulk carrier group, or BCG. This right here is their black nitrate bulk carrier group. Wanted to kind of keep things classy. I chose something no trades on the bolt, just kind of very standard. I've never had my own rifle, so I thought might as well start with something a little more on the stock end, because one, it gets the job done, and two, I need to understand my preference. Later on down the line, I'm sure I'll probably, see the benefits of some other BCGs. I did also buy a part baggie for it. Same thing with just a stock charging handle. And I'm not gonna use that stuff because we could see right here that this one that I bought has everything that I need. But I'm not upset that I bought those things, because having spare parts when it comes to rifles and anything gun related is a good idea. The charging handle that I went with one of the Warhammer charging handles. They're very cost effective and they're pretty great for, what you're spending. They're super lightweight, and I got the tan one because it's the only one they have in stock, but I don't mind a little bit of two-tone on my gun anyways. For my muzzle device, I got a CAC Industries compensator. I just thought this one looked cool. When we get into installing this, we're gonna have to time this properly so the vents are facing upwards. Right here in this little baggie, which I'm not gonna take out just yet, is another NBS product. This is my gas tube. My rifle is gonna be carbine length, so this is a carbine length gas tube. When you decide everything for your barrel size, make sure that I'm buying carbine length or full length or whatever it may be. So this is carbine length. So now, last but not least, I'm going to introduce the part that I probably spent the most money on in the entire build, because when it comes to building an AR, it's kind of the most important thing. Right here is a TNT 16-inch FSP barrel. This is 1/7 twist and it's chrome lined. So if what I just said sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook to you guys, basically 16 inches, I think everyone can understand that. FSP, meaning front sight posts. Finding front sight post barrels is kind of a little difficult. TNT makes great barrels. They make all types of lengths, FSP or not. Not only just finding FSP barrels, but in different twist rates and in chrome lined or not. Getting into that as well, chrome lined, what does that mean? So essentially it's just a treatment that they're doing to the rifling and the barrel. It makes the gun last longer. This right here specifically is an M4 cut barrel. So there's pencil, government, SOCOM, and then M4. What the M4 cut right here offers is a very good middle tier when it comes to barrel rigidity and also how accurate it is. So right here, I got a little set of receiver blocks for putting my lower or upper receiver in the vise. This one right here is for the upper. Essentially, it's a little clamshell and you'll stick the upper in there and then clam it together. And then for the lower, this one is pretty self-explanatory. It's literally just basically a magazine. You stick it into the mag well, then you could clamp it down and kind of do your work. And last brief thing I want to touch on is in this video, I'm going to be switching out my buffer plate for this Magpul one. I want to be able to have as many sling mounting options as I can, just in case for whatever reason, I have every single option possible to mount a sling. And lastly, if you're using this video as a little bit of a guide to install your own barrel, one thing that you're definitely going to need is you need anti-seize grease to be able to torque that barrel down. So what I went with is the Umbrella Corporation AR-15 33 MS anti-seize grease. Okay, to install this barrel and muzzle device, there's only going to be 3 tools you're going to be using. First off, I'm going to be using the Magpul armorer's wrench. If you're looking into getting an armorer wrench, I definitely get one because it literally has every single tool for the job when it comes to doing any kind of work on an AR. On this end, not only do we have a buffer tube castle nut wrench, but we also have the tool to fit the cutout for the flash hider to wrench that down. Over on this side, of course, we have the barrel nut tool. Right here, we have a 1/2 inch size socket adapter. First thing we're gonna need is a torque wrench. Get yourself a real nice torque wrench like this one right here. Don't do it with some crappy Harbor Freight one. And for torquing down an AR barrel, the ranges are between 30 and 80, so that's a huge jump, but basically 30 the minimum, 80 the maximum. Depending on how your gas tube lines up, it's allowing you room to line them up properly. So I'm going to be torquing my barrel down to 40 pounds. Go on further than that if I need to line up the gas tube. And last but not least, we're going to have a breaker bar. So essentially what we're going to do is torque our barrel nut down to 40 pounds 2 times, and then on the third one, it's going to be the final time. What you don't want to do is use your torque wrench, which is a very precision tool, to undo all that pressure. What you want is a breaker bar where you could get a lot of leverage. Essentially what we're going to do, torque it to spec, crack it off with this, do that 2 times, and then on the third we're gonna torque it and then not crack it, leave it alone. Okay, so now that we're here in front of the vise, the first thing we want to do is take our upper receiver and we want to put it into our clamshell vise block. And then next we're gonna want to put this into the vise. But one thing we want to watch out for is our brass deflector sticks out a little bit beyond the width of the actual clamshell itself. So we just want to make sure that we're aware of that so we don't place it in there and just absolutely crunch our brass deflector, because if you can see right there, it's hitting into it right there. So we just want to make sure that we don't do that. All right, so next up what we're going to want to do is take our arrow shell anti-seize and we're going to take our barrel and we want to apply a light coat around where the actual barrel is going to be housed inside of the upper receiver. So like I said, for this, we just want to be light with it and we want to get a fair amount across the entire thing. I'm just making sure that I have a nice even coat all the way around. So now that we're here with our barrel nut slid back over here, we're gonna now install this into the upper receiver. So there's this little pin right here, and if you look on the upper receiver, there's a little notch right there. We just wanna make sure that we line that up and that seats flush into each other. So just go ahead and slide that in there. And you heard that click. It now is in there seated properly. We're going to do a fair amount, a little bit more this time, of the arrow shell grease. We want to get a 360 coverage all the way around the threads. In this, we could definitely be a bit more generous with how much we apply. Now that we got this pig nice and greased up, we're gonna go ahead and just hand tight the barrel nut into the threads. It is a good idea to kind of back it out and then put it back in, and maybe do that just 3 times, just because we want to make sure that we get the threads all nice and greased up with the grease that we just applied a second ago. And now without further ado, I got my torque wrench already set at 40 foot-pounds and I have my armorer's wrench right here. We're going to take this side of the armorer's wrench for this specific barrel nut and we're just going to go ahead and line that up right here. All right, now we're locked into place and I'm going to now attach my torque wrench just like that. And now we're just going to torque away. Okay, so now that we got that tightened on there once, we're gonna go ahead and now take our breaker bar and take that off. Of course, I'm gonna do it 2 more times so you guys are gonna be able to see that positive click that that torque wrench gives us once we get it on there. All right, now we're lined up. We're gonna break this off, just like that. And we wanna come all the way out. And now we're gonna go all the way back on. Right there. Here we go. Now, last time's a charm. All right, here we go. This is gonna be our official barrel seating. One last pop. There we go. Okay, so now what we have to do when it comes to our gas tube is we have to make sure that these little notches on our barrel nut line up with the hole right there. And so essentially the gas tube is going to go from that hole, crossing over the notch right here, all the way connected to another hole that seats in the front sight post. Now that we're set up at 40 pounds, what we want to do is kind of crank it down a little bit until we get this notch to line up with one of those holes right there so our gas tube can properly fit in there. Probably a good idea to use the breaker bar. Okay, so now with a little bit of off-screen struggling, we now have this thing exactly where it should be. This hole and that little notch line up just perfectly. And now when it comes to actually putting in the gas tube, what we want to stay aware of is that there's an end with some holes right here for one of the roller pins, and that's going to go up front. And then the end with no holes on the sides is just going to go all the way towards the back. There's a proper way to put this in. Probably see that there's a little bit of a curve in here. You should be able to just smoothly go in if you just set it up right. Just like that. My handguard is going to be a free float with a cutout for the FSP. It's not going to be the clamshell system that we're familiar with. That's why there's no delta ring on here. So one thing I need to do is actually chop this thing off. So I'm going to go ahead and try to just do my best to get some cutters, possibly Dremel it off. Okay, so now with only scratching up my barrel and front sight post just a little bit, I was able to take this thing off. Kind of forced to completely destroy it when you take it off. Big whoop, whatever. I'm not really worried about it. I want the handguard that I want, and it's gonna stay like that. And then we're going to now slide this into the hole that's in the front sight post. When you look through the little hole that's right at the front sight post, you could see all the way through it because it's lined up properly with the gas tube, which is exactly what we want. And now we have the split pins that, you know, compress under pressure, and we're gonna take this and try to hammer it in there. So I'm just gonna line it right up with the hole, start hammering away, and this should go in fairly easy, just as it is right now. And just like that, gas tube is secured in there, and it's done properly. There you go. Now we're gonna move on to torquing the muzzle device. So I did ask my friend about the whole situation with the split washer as opposed to the crush washer. I mean, he just said if they sent you the hardware, then that's what you should try to use. And if there's any issues with it, then complain later. So you wanna torque it between 20 to 30 foot-pounds. You wanna make sure that you time it right. So basically what timing means, muzzle devices actually have a, you know, proper way that they need to face. And so what timing is you're making it face the way that it needs to. So with this one in particular, this is a compensator. You could see that there's some flutes on one end, and on the other, there are not. So the end with the flutes goes up, and the end without them goes down. And once again, to prep our threads, we're gonna wanna do the same thing and just use a tiny bit of anti-seize grease on our threads. Once again, we wanna get a nice 360 coverage. We don't need to use that much this time. And now I'm gonna go ahead and put my split washer on, just like that. And now we're gonna get our muzzle device. And just like before, we're gonna work the grease into the threads a bit, unscrew it, do that a couple times, just to make sure we get the threads nice and covered. All right, and for this, I'm gonna go ahead and set the torque wrench to 20 pounds because we're probably gonna have to time it and then go a little bit further than that. There we go. We're almost timed where we need to be, a little bit further down. From here, our muzzle device is timed just right. When I'm looking down straight at it, so from this point, all we gotta do, just take it off of the vise. Just let that happen. And yeah, there we go. Real quick before we continue on, I'm actually gonna change out this little back plate on my lower receiver as I talked about. Thread lock. All right, we are now finally here. we have both a functional lower and a soon-to-be functional upper once we just go ahead and install the literal last two things we need. So we're gonna take the BCG and the charging handle, and very simply, what we're gonna do is there's a notch inside of the upper, and there's two notches on the sides of the charging handle, just like that. All we're gonna do is slide that in, line that notch up, it's gonna sink down into there. We're gonna take our BCG, slide it right in there, and everything's gonna go in together. Next step, we're gonna take our lower, we're gonna move our trigger back. We're going to line up this front pin, push this through, just like that. Slam that down, California compliant king pin, and push this thing down in there just like that. There's a little pin that we have to move back real quick just to make sure that that goes in there just right. There we go. There we go. Now that should just pop the lower just like that. And we got everything going right. Bolt should cycle. So now, very last thing I want to do is just go ahead and put some drops of lube in here. Pull the charging handle back. We're going to push down bolt release like that. And it's going to lock our bolt back just like that. Our charging handle is going to sit back here. And what we want to do is apply 3 drops along the length of the charging handle. 1, 2, 3, just like that. Now what we're going to want to do is flip the gun upside down. Apply a couple drops onto the gas tube all the way from half quart. There we go, got 3 drops on there. And now lastly, we're gonna send the bolt home. Bring it back just a little bit. Get some right up here, right up front, right? And last but not least, those 2 holes right there in the bolt, we're gonna try to get it right in there, which is gonna be a little difficult with this nozzle. Got one in there. And now from this point, all we got to do is just rack it a bunch of times until everything feels nice and smooth. All right, and there we go. So far, this is my AR. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys kind of learned something. If you've never seen somebody build an AR, and if you're coming at it from airsoft like I am, you get to check out the process, kind of hopefully hype you guys up to you know, get your own one day, because it sure is a lot of fun. I can't wait to start actually taking this thing to the range and showing you guys how this thing is performing. And if you want to check out how I built the lower, go ahead and check out my previous video on that. And there's going to be a video on the follow-up once I get the handguard and attachments and stuff. Finally complete the Block 2-esque gun I'm going to be building. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Try to get us to 4,000 subscribers. That would be awesome. You guys' support is hugely appreciated. Like I said before, this video is definitely getting demonetized because I'm building an AR. So make sure to definitely subscribe and go check out another video of ours. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys.